June is a season of rebirth in Katmai National Park, Alaska. Plants carpet the landscape in greenery, breeding birds fill the forest with song, and the first sockeye salmon return to fresh water. Of course, let's not forget brown bears begin their search and their summer-long effort to fatten up for winter hibernation. Brooks River in Katmai National Park, Alaska attracts some of the largest brown bears on Earth. Over the next few months, thousands of people will travel to Brooks River to watch bears in person, and many millions more will experience the spectacle through the bear cams on explore.org. Hi, everyone. This is Mike Fitz, your resident naturalist with explore.org, the world's greatest live nature cam network. Brown bear season on explore.org is nearly here, and to get us ready for the bear's arrival, I'm joined today by Charlie Annenberg, explore.org's founder and one of the biggest brown bear fans that I know. Charlie, thanks for being here. I know that I always look forward to our conversations, and I know the audience does as well. So thanks again for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you, Mike. It's always great to, one, to see you even via Zoom, and hello to the audience. And I hope everyone's excited as I am, because I'm really excited.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to know, for what you thought of this, because for me, the days leading up to the launch of the bear cams are days filled with anticipation. So what sort of feelings does that evoke in you, like these days leading up to the final minutes before bear cam?
It's just knowing there's going to be all summer and into fall, just 5 months of wondrous beauty, curiosity, what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. It's just such an exciting time. I don't know if the audience can identify with this, but with each year that I've been a part of Katmai and I observe the bears, the closer I am to Katmai, I feel more connected, and I really miss it during the year. I really miss it, and I get more and more excited. I saw last week, so I posted our crews up there setting up the live cams, and they even bumped into Chunk, and I got so excited to see him and how great he looked already. I'm just, bear ball, it's on. Let's start the season. I'm so excited.
Yeah, there he is right now. So I think this footage was taken by Brian Bird, who is on the explore.org team. He was up there with Joe Pfeiffer and BJ Kirchhoffers working on the cams, getting them upgraded and installed. And they had to step off of the Brooks Falls Trail to let Chunk walk on by. And this is typical protocol for the experience at Brooks River. That sort of thing doesn't necessarily apply to, if you were to encounter like a grizzly bear in Yellowstone, for instance. But at Brooks River, that's sort of, part of the procedure. So walking in groups, giving bears space, giving them the right of way, that's really important. So yeah, it was great to see Chunk there, Charlie. He's looking good for this time of the year. Really big bear.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of 32 Chunk the Hunk. So that was a really pleasant surprise. And hopefully, the fact is, it sounds like last year our season kind of started a little late, if I remember. The bears weren't out as much at Brooks till early July. So the fact that Chunk was spotted already and some other bears, I thought was exciting.
And of course, I want to remind our audience to submit questions for Charlie and I. So if you have questions for us, then drop those in the chats. We'll be looking for those during the broadcast today. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to answer several of them as we move along. And we also want to hear from you during the live chat. I have, of course, several questions for Charlie. We'll have a conversation, but I want to know what our audience thinks of those questions as well. What are your answers to those same questions that I'm asking Charlie? So please join the conversation in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or explore.org. And we're going to give away some prizes to people who participate in the conversation today. So if we feature your comment in the broadcast today, then you can write to us at feedback@explore.org to claim a prize a little bit later on. And finally, Ranger Naomi is joining us in the comments on explore.org. So if you're watching this live chat on explore.org, Ranger Naomi will be there to answer questions and provide some insights of her own there. So welcome back, Ranger Naomi. And then one final big announcement. I want everyone to stick around towards the end of the broadcast today, because at the end of our chat, we're going to announce when the bear cams will be live for 2024. So stay tuned for that. Charlie, it can be a long winter for many of us Brown Bear fans, but we added several new live cams to the Explore.org community this year, and there's just always so much to watch on the cams, no matter what. So I'm curious to know, but maybe before we get into Brown Bears, what live cams were you enjoying most, maybe during the winter?
You know, well, first of all, I always say this. Well, I say I have no favorites, but I think I have one favorite. But outside of the one favorite, um, one that I found incredibly soothing and the quality was incredible are these underwater, the tropical cams down in Honduras right now, Utopia Village. The beauty, it feels like you're snorkeling or scuba diving down there, and it's consistent. And I've had on my big screen TV, I turn it on a lot, and I'm just amazed at the quality that I see there. You can never go wrong, obviously with the Africam and the pandas, uh, all the birds are unique. I've never, like the Mississippi Flyway cam, and there was a turtle this morning, Decorah. So I love them all, but I have to say that just as a surprise, I would recommend to anyone if you're having a stressful day, if you just need a great screensaver in your house, to put the underwater Utopia Village camera on. It is so stunningly beautiful. You feel like you're Jacques Cousteau scuba diving down there. It's incredible. So that kind of caught me. I wasn't as aware of it this year. What about yourself, Mike? Did you have a favorite? I mean, they're all great.
Yeah, it's so hard to choose. I found myself going to the Utopia Village cameras a lot, just because, like you said, they're consistent, they're beautiful. There's always fish or something else to watch there. Once we got the shark cams back online at the Frying Pan Tower, I was watching those a lot, because there's always just like a ton of fish in the water there. One thing that was really special for me, though, was the most temporary cam I think we've ever had on Explore.org, and that was the Eclipse cam from my house.
Oh, yeah.
That was I was outside watching it. I felt so fortunate to be able to see it in person, and I was just lucky that the eclipse path was directly over my house. So we had that eclipse footage just for a short period of time, but that was an amazing experience, and I still think about it. It was really that incredible. So if anybody has the chance to see a total solar eclipse in the future, make sure that you make time to go see it. It really is something special. So hopefully people got a little, yeah, hopefully people got just a little bit of a taste of that through the live cam.
There was a great film the Explore team made on that solar eclipse, and it's just incredible. But you bring up a really interesting point when you ask me that question. I almost pull a blank because there's so many incredible things that happen daily on Explore. Sometimes when I'm reviewing the fan photographs, you almost take it for granted. I just traveled the world. I'm looking at pandas or the red panda in China. Now there's foxes here, diverse animal life in Africa. Then I'm underwater. Then there could be an eclipse. Then the northern lights are going off. Um, you know, Seals. Hopefully some orcas will show up this season. And we just travel the world every day in the purest way. And so when you ask me that question, it's hard to answer because so much happens. There's this incredible silverback gorilla the other day. I mean, when are you going to see a silverback? So it's almost hard to answer because so much magic occurs daily. It's great.
And we're going to add to that magic through the bear cams soon. So I love talking. As you know, Charlie, I could talk about bears for hours and hours. Last year, a lot happened on the cameras. I'm wondering if you can think of like of a particular moment or moments from the bear cams in 2023 that stood out to you. I'll give you one moment first to give you maybe an opportunity to think about them. One moment for me that really stood out among many happened to be the adoption that we saw with 909's cub. Her 2.5-year-old was separated from 909, but she was adopted by 910, which is her aunt, essentially, who has still had a yearling. So this is footage of that family up in the falls last year. So the stories of family that we see on the bear cams and in blended families, sort of non-traditional families as far as bears go. I mean, we get every once in a while we get to see this on the cams. We get to see the risks that mothers take to protect their cubs. We get to see their successes. We get to see their losses when things don't go well, of course. Yeah, so that was one of the, I think, more incredible stories from last year. And we don't really know how that's going to conclude. It's possible that 910 will separate from her cubs. Maybe she has already. I know that she was seen earlier this year with her two cubs, but that was kind of before a lot of the family breakup happens in the Katmai area. So it's possible that she could keep her cubs. It's possible they could separate this year. So I think that story is yet to be concluded.
Yeah, and this is such a tough question. I mean, always a relationship between the mother and the cubs is extraordinary, and as we all know, it can also be very emotionally heartbreaking or wonderful because things happen. And just you bringing up that makes me a little nervous. Anytime the Cubs, especially on the little spit by Brooks, and they might fall in, it's just so terrifying. And mom is going in, and all the male bears around. I mean, I'm very curious about. Well, obviously, I'm curious to see how Grazer returns, and I really think seeing her alone for the first season last season was really impressive. You know, saying like Bear Camp's my favorite camp. The suspense of Otis's return last year was just phenomenal, and I don't even like bringing up Otis because that puts a pit in my stomach as we speak. Because every year I'm terrified, and I don't know how that bear keeps doing it, but the way he showed up, I think it's always around July 21st, and was so thin and caught so many fish. It was just incredible. There's, they're just, each one is so unique. And I find that I get closer and closer to them each year. That's what I was trying to say. I need to review all my photographs I took to answer that question because it's a big collage and tapestry in my head, all the great moments. I mean, I love sometimes the sunrise moments though, when there's a mist over Brooks Falls and so the bears walk in and they're going in between the shadows and you can see the mountain range behind it. Natural Cathedral, I've always said it, Pearls of the Planet, Church of Nature, Nature Sistine Chapel, call it what you want. It's the prettiest place on the planet. It's just exciting. Bear Ball, let's get it on. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And again, just a reminder to our audience too. Again, I want to know what you think of or what your answers are to these questions that Charlie and I are discussing. So if there's a particular moment for you or moments from the bear camps in 2023, put those in the comments, please. We'll try to share a few of those as we're heading along. And Charlie, you mentioned Otis, of course. For me, he's always a bear that showcases resilience and skill, his adaptability in the face of challenge, because he's not a young bear anymore. But I do want to mention really quick, one of the interesting stories that we can always watch on the bear cams is maybe, we get the cams are on 24/7. So we get to sometimes see bears that aren't regular visitors to Brooks Falls. And we talk about Otis and how he's old. Last year, there was one bear, I think maybe we only saw him once, maybe twice, but he's just as old as Otis. And this is number 469. He doesn't have a nickname. He never, he's one of those bears that just hasn't, been around, or he's been around forever, but he really just never acquired a nickname. But he has a very distinctive triangle-shaped light patch of fur on his left shoulder. And he might be older than Otis. We don't know exactly how old he is, but he's certainly, I think we can estimate, in his late 20s, like Otis. So, we have these stories of these older bears adapting to challenges from like younger bears in the river and the hierarchy that comes along with that and how they're going to fill into those niches depending on competition and the challenges they face with old age. But 469 is another one of those. So yeah, that's a moment that stood out to me as well. One more I think I'll mention is 856. I love watching the ebb and flow of the hierarchy at Brooks Falls, Charlie. And last year, I was not expecting 856 to kind of regain his place at the top. of the hierarchy, but he did it. In 2022, at the end of 2022, 747 was more dominant, but not last year. 856 was consistently more dominant than 747. I don't know if that's going to be the case again this year, but it seems like every year 856 shows incredible skill and toughness. He has the advantage of having a reputation as a tough fighter and a skilled bear. So other bears really just don't tend to challenge him. But yeah, I think that's another moment that stood out to me. Do you have anything else though?
Well, it's funny. I mean, 856 has always had a kind of a bad rap on Explore, I think. He just doesn't get the love that other bears get because he is a tough bear. And it looks like over the years that Otis has been coaching 747 because 747 and them, they have a very special relationship. I always notice it, like especially when they're in their positions. So he's become last season, he was a little bit more, he's just, he's so big, he's hard to move, but he's a little bit more zen this year. The most interesting thing to me has always been the relationship between Mom and the cubs and the extraordinary nature of the female bears. I mean, the bravery, the way they hunt, take care of their cubs, etc. So I'm very intrigued about like what that will look like this year because every year there's a new surprise, of like a mom. And, I mean, obviously, do you think Grazer will show up alone again and just take her crown, or is she going to have a family with her? I'm so curious.
Right. There's so many unanswered questions at this moment in time. And really the only thing that's going to answer them are the bears showing up and telling us what's going on with them. And we got a couple of people from our audience who are telling us what their favorite moments from last year. Tanya K wrote in and said, watching Otis night fishing last year was amazing. And yeah, I think, we got through the infrared emitter on the cameras at the falls. We got to see that. Otherwise it would be too dark for us to really know what's going on at the falls, but that was incredible to see. Sarah Kane wrote in and said, my favorite moment of 2023 was the return of Otis. And yeah, I know a lot of people were so happy to see Otis come back to the falls and just do his thing. Like it was like just another day at Brooks Falls. It wasn't another day for a lot of the Bear Camp fans because Otis is so beloved. But he just did what he knows best. He just came to the falls. He fished. He didn't chase salmon. He just stood there and he fished as best he can. And then Pam wrote in and said, I love watching young bears learn how to fish on the lip. There's definitely a learning curve. And yeah, that's one of the fun things to watch every year is those younger bears, Charlie, try to figure out what the heck they're doing without Mom's guidance. Some catch on pretty quickly, but you can see with others too. It's definitely a skill that takes practice to get good at.
And you know what? I'm just thinking, Shower Bear, Bucky Dent, he got really big last season, didn't he? He used to be like a little bear, but he was pretty big and instigator, but he still liked his little shower spot. But he changed. He grew up a lot last season. I'll be curious to see if he comes back, how he comes back, because I remember he would like steal fish from everyone, but he was bigger. He was much bigger last season. Just Bucky Dent. I'll be curious to see what he's up to. He's a mischief maker.
That's actually a great segue to the next question that I wanted to ask our audience and ask Charlie. Before I get to that question, though, I did want to get to an audience question because one of the moments, I guess, from last year that happened to stand out, and Charlie, you kind of mentioned it, was the salmon were historically late coming to Brooks River. So somebody wrote in and was wondering, what are the predictions for when the salmon run will begin this year? And I don't think the biologists with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game or the National Park Service or anybody are really predicting any real big deviations in the salmon run this year. They're predicting a pretty strong salmon run, but within historical averages. So something like 39 million salmon returning to the Bristol Bay region. And this is home to the largest and greatest salmon run left on Earth. Brooks River supports several 100,000 sockeye salmon typically every year. Why the salmon were, late in arriving at Brooks River last year, we don't really know. It might be maybe a long-term shift in just when they happen to come back. I'm not really sure, but we're starting to see a lot of bears sticking around Brooks River in August, which historically was not a thing that we had seen when I was working as a ranger at Katmai. Like when I started in 2007, 2008, we almost never saw bears in August. That was a really uncommon thing, and now it's pretty consistent that bears are fishing at the river in August. So again, the salmon run is predicted to be strong again this year, but the individual timing of it and where they enter these streams like Brooks River, that is again a question that we'll have to leave up to the wildlife to answer for us. So yeah, some other favorite moments coming from our audience as well. Laura MC wrote in and said, my favorite includes, Otis returning 909, 910 family dynamics. But Laura writes in and says, what I really love is watching how Bucky 164 continues to fish in his very unique way. Absolutely. Charlie mentioned it. We all love how 164 sits under the waterfall and fishes in a place that he invented, essentially. I'd never seen a bear fishing in that spot before. There's somebody with the screen name Gully 903 wrote in and said, last year I was at Brooks when Otis returned. It was exciting around camp as everyone couldn't wait to see him. I also thought it was great to see 32 and some 47 challenging and chasing each other while I was there. Absolutely. The ebb and flow of the hierarchy is wonderful to see. And Zen Bear, Dre says pretty much everything Grazer. Her first 4 catches on the cam in a row in the riffles and the first fish caught on the cams. Yeah, Grazer is a force to be reckoned with. I think she'll be a big storyline this summer. Charlie, you mentioned before that you're really looking forward to seeing 164. Are there other bears though besides 164? We always look forward to Otis coming back. You said you mentioned you like Chunk. Might there be another bear though that you're looking forward to seeing most? And I want to know what the audience thinks as well. So yeah, Charlie, what do you think? Any other bears besides 164?
Well, a lot of the Mike, this is a subject we talked about before, like the naming of bears. I mean, they're all unique. I just want the whole family to come back. But some of because we've been doing this now for, is it 10, 11? Are we 12 years? 11? I've lost track.
Yeah, since 2012.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to see some of the young adult male bears are getting very big and suddenly they're going to start taking over like a new regime, like it's like in sports, the new NBA, like there's some, and I'm really curious. I can't remember right now the exact numbers. I'm not as good with you as like the number naming, but there were a few male bears that were just gorgeous. I have to look it up on my phone. So they're all written. I'm a little rusty. I've like preseasoned myself with the numbers. So I'm excited to see, I'm excited to see that. And I just love seeing which mothers show up and to see how the cubs are doing and if there's a new litter. And it's just always so exciting and how they're going to adapt. Hopefully we get to see. Holly will be interesting to see if she comes. It's all a mystery. That's what's so unique about Explorer. We're living within the shadows of nature. We have no control of what's going to happen in the next few days, this whole season. A movie is manipulated. I know exactly how I'm going to put it together to try to get all this audience to react, to feel, to think. We're all in this boat together. We have no idea. Every day is new. And I love the note someone said watching that night fishing, because I never seen it. And Otis, just like Shower Bear, I don't think any of the audience had ever seen the idea of fishing all night. And then remember how he'd be passed out in that spit area, like a comatose, because he'd been fishing all night. So there's so many subplots. And one thing I wanted to go back to too is we talked about last season. The snow melted unusually late last season. And when the season started, remember how high the tides were by Brooks? The water was so rough. That little island in the middle was non-existent. So I wonder if that had anything to do with the salmon run being a little later too, because the water was exceptionally rough. The bears were getting thrown all around. There was no center island until probably into July. So question back to you, which bear are you hoping to see that it's not on the Mount Rushmore of bears?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for a lot of people, I think maybe this bear could be on the Mount Rushmore of bears. It depends on whether he's around the falls consistently, the next few years, and that's number 503.
Yeah.
He had a nickname for a long time called Cub Adult. Maybe he's kind of grown out of that nickname because he's, as you can see here, not a cub anymore. 503 is one of those bears that we saw in the formative days of Bear Cam. He was separated from his mother as a yearling, which is a year early in Katmai. He was adopted by Holly. He's grown into a really big bear. We only saw him, I think, maybe consistently last fall. We didn't see him in July. And Charlie, you were mentioning how is there going to be a change in the regime, a changing of the guard among the young males at Brooks River? Because we have these older males like 856, 747, and Chunk, who are really dominant bears and have been super dominant for a long time. But you have all of these younger bears that are growing and growing and growing and growing. And eventually they're going to get to a point where they feel strong enough, they feel tough enough, and they have, maybe the attitude to challenge some of those bigger bears. And I'm kind of wondering about 503. I mean, he's always been big for his age. And I think if he comes back in July this year, we'll see that he's a really big bear. And I would not be surprised if he ends up challenging some of these other older bears for mating opportunities, for the most preferred fishing spots. Definitely, for me, he's one of those bears that I would like to see more of. Last year, he was just kind of an enigma. He was not at the falls consistently. We didn't really see them till later in the year. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing if 503 comes back, and if he does, how he fits into the hierarchy.
Yeah, he is a beauty for sure. That's exciting. I wonder what the fans' favorite bears are. I mean, what they're looking forward to, and what are the unknowns, the anxiety, how people are feeling. Are they excited as me? I mean, is everyone else excited? Because I'm really excited. My TV big screen will be on, and it's light 24 hours, minus like 3. It'll just be on for the next 6 months. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah. Share which bears you're looking forward to seeing in the comments. So drop those into the comments. We'll be looking for those as we head along. While we're talking about maybe dominance has been one of those topics that's come up in our conversation so far today. We did have an audience question among many about that. So someone wrote in and said, how is dominance ranked? For example, how do other bears determine who is more dominant and who gets the special spot underneath the falls? Well, it's largely based on size. So if you're new to watching brown bears or just any gathering of bears, no matter where they happen to be, it's largely based on size. So if you're a bigger bear like 856, 747, or like 821 here, who is a growing young adult male, he could be one of those bears that challenges some of the older bears for dominance at the falls this year. If you're bigger, other bears recognize that. So size means a lot. Body size means a ton to bears. And usually the bigger bear has an advantage over other bears. The smaller bears recognize they can't challenge the bigger bears, so they just happen to yield space. But there's a lot of posturing that happens as well. So look for dominant bears, or bears that are at least feeling confident to approach subordinate bears with their heads up, their ears forward, directed stare. The more dominant bears are usually going to turn their back on the subordinate bears and walk away, like 856 is about to do right here, unless it's over a fishing spot or something like that. The dominant bear is the one that's going to be walking away. He's basically turning his back and said, "Punk, I don't think that you're a threat to me at all." But then there's attitude as well. That's one of the major factors with some of the bears that can punch above their weight. 856 is a huge bear. he doesn't punch above his weight. He's just right where you would expect him to be. But Grazer, for example, she punches above her weight. She's not the biggest bear on the river, but she has such, Charlie, we've seen it over and over and over again. We have seen her challenge bigger bears, defending her cubs against bigger bears. So if you have the right attitude and disposition, then you can attain a higher rank in the hierarchy, just because other bears learn that you are fearsome and you're not to be tangled with. And I think that's one of the things that we can ascribe to Grazer, is her fearsomeness.
What do the fans call it? With Grazer knocks everyone around, Grazerette, or what's that term? When Grazer gives him the paw. I mean,
right? Yeah, they call it grazering. So they basic or grazered. So yeah, they kind of
you
gave
Grazer, yeah.
Yeah. So they
I mean,
it's been coined a verb, actually. So we'll see that if we can get that in an official dictionary one day.
It's always, in the fan, comments when, Grazer's done something, it's everyone's talking about it. It's great.
So 901 fan wrote in and said, I love watching the 402 family and wondering if 402 will keep her little girl, 402 Junior, this summer. Yeah, again, that's a storyline that we're going to have the Bears answer for us. 402 is an older mom. She's had 8 litters total. So just an amazingly successful mother bear. So 402, yeah, looking forward to seeing if she can return this year, if she'll have her cub around. She's almost always, I think, separated from her cubs when they at the beginning of her cubs' 3rd summer. So it'd be normal for her to come back this year as a single bear. Daphne Herring wrote in and said 503, Prince of Katmai, looking forward to seeing him. Yes, so many people are looking forward to seeing 503. Yeah, Grazer, people are looking forward to seeing Grazer. Charlie, you asked if how excited the fans are, and Roxy Mama wrote in and said, I am ridiculously excited. So there you go. Thanks for keeping that succinct, Roxy. I think, we could easily just put like 1,000 exclamation points there, but yeah, that's a succinct way of saying it. And Angie R said there are more than 1,000 people watching the chat right now. So people are very, very excited. A couple more here before we get to my next question for everybody. Bison normally wrote in and said, I hope to see 101 return. She won my heart with her attempt to raise 2 tiny cubs. I hope better things are in the future for her. Yeah, she was a young mom last year, Charlie. That's one of the sadder storylines that we watched last year. A lot of young moms, first-time moms with cubs, and it was a pretty hard year for them. Not a lot of those young moms had success raising their cubs, or at least protecting their cubs. They lost them for a variety of reasons. One of the things that you said earlier, Charlie, I thought was really important to consider is that when you're watching a movie or a TV show or even a news broadcast, somebody is editing that stuff often to provoke a reaction in you. They want you to feel something in a specific way at a specific moment. But on Exploded Oregon, especially on the bear cams, there's no human trying to provoke an emotion from you. It is just raw in nature.
It's really unique, and I can't speak for the audience. Sometimes I take it for granted. And as someone who, before we were doing the live cams, was a filmmaker, documentaries, that's kind of what's so incredible. We're all in this boat, but we have no control. We're just allowed to voyeur into such a sacred world and observe it, learn from it, grow from it, connect to it. But we don't manipulate it. It's out of our control. And anytime, like I'll remind someone, like when you watch one of these, shows on the other channels, every shot has been color corrected, sound designed, and put together to evoke emotional connections, which is great. I'm not putting it down, but everyone here on this boat, we have no idea. We don't know what bears are going to show up first. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the salmon run's going to be. We don't know. There's always going to be a subplot of the season, if not several. And the community is going to come together and start talking about it. And that's what makes it so unique. I always go back to that is it's the community. And then people like yourself, Mike, who've worked up there in the Rangers, you kind of keep the tapestry going. Um, and it's just incredible. And we have the light almost 24 hours. And then there's so many subplots. And what I love hearing about fans' favorite bears or moments, it's kind of like when you ask me, what's your favorite live cam? Not out of bears, but like during the season, there are so many that we connect to. There's so many little families and ecosystems and locations, and everyone kind of finds that little niche. So they're all amazing. So there's like, it's like a mini Explorer within Explorer. There's like hundreds of sub families. It's like each one's a little channel. You can follow each bear. So it's really unique in how it creates that emotional connection. And we all, like, I don't know how many people who are on the audience right now own a pet, like a dog or a cat, for example. But we've kind of grown up with them now. It's been 12 years, and anyone owns a pet, you get closer and closer with each year. They're like connected to your soul, to your being, and it's kind of what's happened at Bear Camp because they return, and it's really a big family, and it's some like psychologists gonna have to write about it someday. It's really quite incredible. Why someone has written Zen and the Art of Otis is beyond me because he deserves his own book about how to live life. I mean, that he's his own self-help book right there. So there is so much magic that is taken for granted that we all get to see each day. And it's incredible.
Yeah,
Sorry, side story there. Sorry.
no, that's cool. I like that. Especially with, when you mentioned how like we've grown with these bears and we've seen them grow. Speaking of 503, who I mentioned before, he was, again, when we saw him as like a separated yearling in 2014, for a while he was on his own. Like he separated from 402, or she separated from him. She went back into estrus. 856 is following. Sort of like the normal process happened, except it was just like a year early for family separation for 503. He was on his own for, we don't know, at least a week, maybe two. When you would see him walking around the river, and I would see him in person, this scraggly little thing, a thin yearling, clearly hadn't eaten a lot during the early part of the summer. And yeah, at that time, I could not have imagined him to become such a big, healthy bear like he is right now. So yeah, 503, he's the one on the right-hand side of this clip, just looking amazing, living his best life. So yeah, it's awesome to see. We've had, Bear Camp has been going on long enough that we get to see these stories come to a conclusion in a sense, and keep on going in another sense. So yeah, if you're new to watching the bears, we invite you to become part of the community, ask questions, and learn some of the background of these individual animals, because I think it really will help to enrich your experience.
A quick side plug for people that are new and for fans. I hope I'm not overshooting it, but also I think we redid our app this season. So if you're on mobile, it has commenting on it, so you can do that, which is kind of exciting. I don't know why I thought about that, but for new people, like that's and the whole new commenting system. So hopefully, because I feel there's so much stuff going on, and sometimes things break down. So it's just going to be exciting because I'll be able to carry it with me now. I'm going to have it on everywhere. Like it will be going. I do like 503. Whoever that fan was, the Prince of Katmai. I'm going to have to start calling him just Prince. He is somewhat princely. So, who's a bear that always sleeps on that rock at the end of season?
You know what? I should know that. The Bear Camp fans will know. I'm sure there's probably like 10 of them that have already answered by now, but I know exactly which bear. I can picture it in my brain, but I'm having just like a blank as far as the identification number or nickname. But yeah.
So it's exciting. I think Candace might have mentioned that. I don't know if the app's actually officially working, but you can test the Android version of it now. I'm not wearing my glasses. I got a little message on the Zoom screen. I think that's what it said. But I went off side topic. I just thought I'd mention that to people that might be new. I think it will be a really fun, unique feature this season to be able to, you can comment, whereas before you couldn't. And it's a community that really, I think, makes it so much fun. Like the way people come together and just discuss all the subplots, and the moderators have always been fantastic and just exciting. Sorry, I'm excited.
Well, a few more people wrote in to talk about which bears they're looking forward to seeing. I love B Bears. I can't wait to see 747. He's my favorite bear, and I hope he comes back looking better this year. I'm remembering last year he was thin and didn't seem to feel too well at the beginning of the season. 747, he's a tank. Even when he looks skinny, he's just a monster of a bear. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how he's doing this year. Mickey wrote in and said looking forward to seeing number 230, who is the big nickname by a lot of the Bear Camp fans, Ben. Love his ears. Yeah, he has bright blonde ears and fairly chocolate brown fur, so he really stands out in the crowd. Heather wrote in and said looking forward to seeing 901. Do you think she'll or maybe Heather was looking mentioning 910, and that's just a switch between the 1 and the 0 there. Do you think she'll emancipate 910 junior or 909 junior before mating season starts? Again, that's kind of an open question. This is 910's first litter, so we don't know if she would keep her biological cub for 3 summers or just 2 summers. If it's just 2 summers, they could be separated as a family right now, because June is the peak of the mating season, and that's typically when family breakup and family separation happens in brown bears. And Susan MC writes in, I'm always looking forward to seeing Holly. Well, one more comment here, Charlie. I think you'll really enjoy hearing this one. This is from Irish Wabbit, who says, my 86-year-old husband is bedbound, and the cameras are his way to experience life outside our home. We look forward to the Cubs antics, the family dynamics, and are grateful for all the cams. So yeah, I love seeing comments like that, because we know nature is valuable to everybody. It means something to everybody, but it's difficult for many of us to access. And I think the cameras help to make nature more accessible.
One of the core themes of Explore has always been the power of nature's healing. So when you hear those stories, I know for myself, back when you asked me about like the underwater cam, it just soothes the soul and it allows you to be a voyeur. So yeah, getting those comments, it's just a priceless, it's the highest compliment. So thank you for sharing that. You made my day. Yeah.
Well, story, Charlie. We still have maybe 15 minutes or so left to talk. We discussed some storylines maybe that we're looking to following this summer. I'm wondering, again, I'll give you an opportunity maybe to revisit some of those storylines if you want to, or if you can think of a different one. But I want to know from our audience as well. What storylines are you looking forward to watching on the Bear Camps this year? So drop those ideas about that in the comments. I'll start right now with one that I am actually 2. We kind of touched on this earlier. Is Grazer going to come back with Cubs this year? She was single last year, super fat at the end of the year. Body fat is really important for mother bears to support the birth of cubs in the den, because that's where they give birth. If she's not fat enough going into the den, then she's not going to give birth in the den itself. But Grazer did really well for herself last year, and I think the fans recognized that when they chose her as the Fat Bear Week champion. So I'm wondering if she'll return with cubs, and if so, will her behavior change at all? Do you think she'll mellow out? I'm not sure. She's always shown a tremendous devotion and fearlessness in toughness and protection of her cubs. So yeah, she is one of those bears that I'm looking forward to watching this year. And if she has cubs, it really could change much of the dynamic at the falls, because if you think that she's a tough bear as a single female, wait till you see her with cubs. She is just maybe the toughest mama bear that I've ever seen. She's the archetypal mama bear. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that storyline develop. And Charlie, you mentioned this too, the young males at the falls. Are we going to see a changing of the guard? We've had big guys like Walker, 747, Chunk, 856 kind of rank near the top of the hierarchy for so many years. But what about the younger guys? What about 903, which I think has one of those bears? He's been spotted looking along the river. So already this year, I think that's one question that we had earlier. I can't remember who asked it, but yeah, some people were wondering which bears have been seen this year. And one bear that I know people have seen is 903. But yeah, what about 821? What about 907? He hasn't shown up consistently that much, but he's a big bear when he has been around. 503 we mentioned before. So yeah, those are a couple of storylines that I'm looking forward to following this year. Charlie, you mentioned some of the ones that you're looking forward to following this year. I don't know if you want to revisit some of those or if you had another one that maybe popped into your brain.
Oh, I just love hearing actually from the fans. I'm,
All right.
getting comments. They're so, there's just so many, so many unfolding dynamics. But it's funny. It's still at the most base level. It's still, bears breeding, feeding, and what that hierarchy and how that's going to look is it's really curious. I mean, we could do a bet like what's going to be the first bear to fall over the lip. Like I'm surprised those aren't things. I hope I was thinking I think about that season. I think it was the year of COVID when there was like I think like 40 bears one time, like all up at Brooks Falls. It was the most extraordinary thing I'd ever seen. And I just wonder like how I just where the bears are going to congregate this year. They kind of go to different um areas, but no, my themes are kind of I guess I'm like an old dog. They're kind of the same every year. Who's going to show up? What's the new hierarchy? Mom with cubs, and like it was exceptional a few years ago. I remember when we saw some wolves come in, and occasionally we see a moose. Um, so, and then of course salmon. I mean, how are they going to run? I love that underwater salmon cam, especially when it's running. It's just so fascinating that we talk so much about bears and we leave out the unsung hero of the salmon and the incredible migration that they do. So let the fans chime in on this because I'm like a broken record. I'll talk about because every year it's new. I just have no idea, so I kind of go in open minded. I don't have like a big set. I mean, obviously, Grazer is a mystery because there was a lot of talk. I know at the end of last season, Ann Hawley about will she come back with Grazer in particular with Cubs, and that would be that'd be amazing. But she looks so well. But I guess it happens in June. She brushes off all those males. I mean, I've seen how many. You'll see 747 and all these big bears chasing her all over that park. It's incredible. So I'm very intrigued. Like, who's coming up? There's so many. Help me out. I need some assists by the fans.
Sure.
My
Well,
mom's just going all over the place. Which was a bear was kind of sad because she lost a few of her cubs. She had 4 last year. It was so heartbreaking, but she was such an amazing mom. It was at 9-0. Remember in the beginning of the season, one had 4 cubs, but then
I think 901 had 3 cubs last year, and she was one of the bears that a lot of people had been following because she was so fat the year before and a young mom. It
yeah,
really, yeah, it really does speak to the challenges that these younger mothers face. I mean, it's a steep learning curve for them. And when you watch kind of like the older bears behave with like a confidence around their cubs, it shows what experience can do for bears. Like having that experience raising litters it's something that's extremely valuable for mother bears.
yeah. It's unique. I mean, I let the games begin. I just don't. What's going to unfold? Like I said, I don't even know who will show up. I don't like saying that because, like I said, I've grown up with these bears, so I'm more like anticipation. I'm just, I want to know myself, just like every fan. I don't try to predict here. I just try to be in the moment and enjoy because I have no idea. I was excited to see Chunk. He already looked big. I'll tell you that. Chunk was looking quite large in that video. I was very impressed. I've never seen chunk walking like that. I've only seen them kind of in the water, a large bear.
Yeah, I thought there was an audience question that came in real early about like, is I'm not sure I'll be able to find it right now because we have so many comments that have come in, but somebody was wondering essentially, like, is it normal to see like bears like Chunk, kind of walking around the river at this time of the year? And for some bears, it is normal. And it is normal for Chunk to look that good. I think, that Brooks River is just part of his springtime home range. So for a lot of the bears that we see at Brooks River, they're out doing their things somewhere else. And Brooks River is just not part of their normal June home range, for example, but it is for Chunk because he tends to make an appearance in May and June, and his size is just a testament to how well he did last year eating salmon. Because a lot of that size is body fat that he's carried over into this year. So good on him for doing so well last year. Charlie, you wanted to know some more from our audience. Just so many comments are coming in. It's too many to keep track of, but we'll go through a bunch of them right now. Bees Bears wrote in and said, looking forward to seeing the new mothers arrive. Hopefully they stay away from the falls until late summer. Bees Bears is looking forward to seeing Gully, Grazer, 747, Bucky, Otis, and so forth. Let's see here. BJB 1117 wrote in and said, I'm looking forward to seeing 335. It's been fun watching the changes in her since she was a mischievous cub of the year. I do hope she returns. A 335 is a Holly offspring. So if you are unfamiliar with that number, she, raised by one of the more famous and skilled mother bears at Brooks River. Stephanie H wrote in and said, I get to see the bears and so many other animals closer than I would be able to see them if I were just there physically. And yeah, Charlie, that's something that's so interesting about the bear cam experience. I won't be traveling to Brooks River in person this year, but I feel like I will have a very rich wildlife watching experience through the cameras because I'm not limited. Like if I were to go there just as a normal park visitor, go there just for a few hours if I was on a day trip, or if I was camping, maybe I'm just limited to a few days. But on the cams, as you and I know, we get to watch as long as we want, and watch for not only across a season but across years.
That's me. I'll be watching it for it's going to be on pretty much the whole next few months. I know exactly what you're saying, and for anyone who can get there, it's such a unique experience because there are sights and smells and energy, and just to feel it's something you can't. I don't think you can capture, but it's we have sound, and you get to zoom in and get close-ups and get to see so much that you wouldn't even see if you were there. So it's really, yeah, it's incredible. It's exciting.
One of the things that makes the experience so special and worthwhile is the work, Charlie, you mentioned of the camera operators. How they are working so hard to give people great views of the bears itself. We had an audience question that was about that. Somebody was wondering, how are the cameras operated? How many people operate the bear cams, and do they operate them 24/7? So the cameras are operated by humans most of the time, unless it's like the Dumpling Mountain cam typically is on an auto tour, although there's a camera operator often watching that in case something interesting happens. But usually the camera operators at Brooks River, there's perhaps a couple of them at a time. Maybe some are just watching the cameras that are located near Brooks Falls. Maybe another one is watching the cameras that are down at the mouth of the river. So our Cat's Riverview camera, who's named in honor of our longtime lead camera operator, Catherine Green, and then also the Riverwatch camera down there. So yeah, Charlie, I'm so thankful for the job that the camera operators do. It's not something that I think I can do well, especially right away. But they are sharp-eyed. They really are committed to giving our huge audience a memorable wildlife watching experience.
There are a lot of unsung heroes at Explore. Again, I've used that word take for granted, that just work tirelessly, effortlessly to try to make it a great experience. The cam operators, the moderators, the people behind the scenes, the whole Explore staff. So there's a lot of magic. You know, the magic's on the screen, but there's a lot of stuff going behind the scenes, and we really have to, you know, give thanks where thanks is due. It couldn't happen without them. So I thanking each one myself, and it's, you know, I know how much they just want to create the ultimate experience for the fans.
Yeah, so many things to be thankful for, and of course our moderators as well that work hard to keep our chat civil. We also switched into a different chat system this year, so you have a bit more freedom to talk about things that maybe aren't directly bear related on the cameras, but you'll still be able to, and we'll be able to use filters. So if you're looking for comments on Otis, for example, and people have used the hashtag Otis in the comments, you'll be able to see what everyone has been talking about. So yeah, great things to look forward to this year. And thanks to our camera operators and moderators, and those are volunteers essentially helping us make the website work well. A few more comments that we'll get to before our big announcement about when the Bear Cams are going to go live. Patty B wrote in and said, "This is my football season and Fat Bear Week is my Super Bowl." So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. FEMW wrote in also and said, "I'm looking forward to seeing 903's continuing innovations. Last year, he had eagles fishing for him by the end of the season." And yeah, we talk about 164 and how he innovated a fishing spot underneath Brooks Falls. 903 was one of those bears that learned to hunt gulls a few years ago. We really didn't see him doing that last year, if I can remember right. But yeah, you know, again, an opportunist. Bears are opportunists, and 903 is certainly, I think, a great example of that. People will ask, hey, do they ever try to catch the birds? And it's pretty rare for them to try to do that. But 903 learned how to do it a few years ago. We had Ad Astra writing in and saying, curious if Bean and Bede will stick together this year, or if they both get emancipated or separated. Also, if just one is turned loose. Yeah, again, we talked about the 910 family earlier. I would expect that if family separation happens, it's going to be with both of those cubs in that family, even though they're different ages. So it's not like the 909 junior in that family, the adopted cub, is going to be like, yeah, I think I'm just going to go wander off on my own. I think it's probably going to be both of those cubs if it happens, if family breakup, that is, happens. Birgit is saying, I'm looking forward to watching 912 fishing the jacuzzi and sharing fish with all the subadults and less dominant bears. You know, that's always something that's really interesting too, Charlie, because we see these younger bears, often if they're really good at fishing, they can be really tolerant of other bears kind of hovering around them. I remember 747 doing that when he was a younger bear. He had this sort of armada of other bears just hanging downstream of him because he was such a good, I don't know if you remember, but he was such a good angler that other bears would just kind of hang downstream and wait for his leftovers. And we saw a little bit of that with 912 last year.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on last year, actually, of like scraps and this, you know, like the whole system and hierarchy. It's really interesting when you look at how the bears line up. Someone was talking about positioning. It's like there's the front, you know, going all the way down the river. The bears are all kind of positioned themselves for success, we should say, in their own range. We'll see. I just hope we have a great season.
Absolutely. And then one other comment here from Love Bucky, who's saying, hoping to see the new subadult friendships form and watching long play sessions. Yeah, that's always something to look forward to as well. We think of bears as fearsome competitors, and they are in a lot of ways, but they can be much, much more social than their historic reputations would have. You know, when you hear about the early descriptions of grizzly bears, especially how super aggressive they are, and I think that's just because people were out there trying to kill them. You know, the Lewis and Clark journals talk about this. Like they were never threatened by bears unless they were out there trying to kill a bear. So if they were just have given those bears space, they probably would not have had to worry about bear encounters when they were exploring the Missouri River. So, you know, on the bear camps, we see this more social side of brown bears, especially when they're well fed. They can be very tolerant of one another. They do get hangry, just like people, maybe the extreme of it, Charlie. We've seen that before. But yeah, I don't think we can ever forget those moments when the river is filled with fish and there's very little competition happening among the bears.
Yeah. I like the happy bear moments myself when they're not hangry and they're all just eating and sleeping and getting a little lazy and fat. It's just wonderful, like to see that alone. You talk about subplots. So one of my favorite things is seeing how the coats change during the season, especially with the Cubs, to see like it grow out and just the transformation of so many of these bears. And if you look at just their coats and how healthy they're becoming, it's a win-win. It's a success story. That's what makes the bears so unique. There's very few stories in nature where it's a success story that you hear about, and here you were actually watching an ecosystem functioning. And I keep going back to people like yourself, Mike, who dedicated your life to preserving this pearl of the planet. It's really unique. There's not many stories on the planet like Katmai that I've found. And if there are, please share them with me. So let's try to make another, please help me. If someone could find something that's amazing, the Explore team wants to know.
Well, yeah, I think so. And we've had so many great comments from our audience and so many great questions. We couldn't get to them all. But thanks to everybody who did submit questions and comments today. It's been really fun to hear what you are looking forward to and sharing that with everybody and allowing Charlie and I to talk about those things as well. If we featured any of your comments or questions during the live broadcast today, you can write to us at feedback@explore.org to claim a prize. So thanks to everybody who submitted comments and questions during the broadcast today. Charlie, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. But we have a special announcement for everybody at the very end of our chat. Do you want to do us the honors and tell us when the cams are going to go live this year?
We have a bear roll, the bear roll here. Well, we all tuned in, probably not to hear Mike and myself speak, but to know finally when are the Bears going live. So after putting you through this whole thing, we could tell you this Thursday, I believe it's June 20th, 9 a.m. Pacific time, the Katmai Bears, our beloved Bears, they're back. So get excited. Get all the errands you need done this week. Like someone said, it's my football season too. And let's just welcome to Bear season because we're back this Thursday, 9 a.m., June 20th. I'm so excited.
So am I. Sounds great. And, the Bears fishing for salmon. It's one of the most enthralling sights in nature. Charlie and I are so eager to share the experience with everybody. Charlie, thanks again for joining me today. It's been a really fun conversation, and we'll talk again soon about brown bears, I'm sure.
Anytime. It's always a great pleasure, Mike, to speak with you, and it's a really great pleasure to somehow through this medium interact with the fans. It's really, we're a great community, and Explore really is for the community and the fans. I'm just a steward of it. And again, I'd like to take this moment to thank my team. They really do the heavy lifting and the hard work. And if I was here, I'd say take a bow. So thank you all. And I'm really excited. I'll see everyone. I'm the DJ of nature, and I'll see everyone on the chats starting Thursday.
Sounds great. And my name is Mike Fitz with explore.org. Remember, the Bear Cams will go live for the first time this year, June 20, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Until then, enjoy all of the other cameras that we have at explore.org. Have a great day. And as we like to say here at explore.org, never stop learning.